Hello and welcome to another video review. This is XCOM, Terror from the Deep for DOS and PlayStation. Make sure you've seen my review of the original XCOM before you watch this review, because this particular review I'm not going to reiterate myself much, or I'm not going to go into depth about the gameplay mechanics like I did in the original review. So I'll have an annotation up to where you can view that right now. This is Microprose's sequel to XCOM UFO Defense or UFO Enemy Unknown. That just depends on where you ended up getting it. But it was released in 1995 for DOS and then the next year for PlayStation. And it's interesting to note that this was the 1990s style of sequel development. It's almost exactly the same as the original game, but they did change up a few things, namely the theme. So I'm really not going to talk about a lot of the things that they kept the same. I'm more going to talk about the differences. Now, one thing that they did change up considerably from the first game was the graphics, which have been altered to fit the sea theme that they're going for with this one. So now all of your guys are running around in these comically humongous sci-fi scuba outfit kind of things, and their gear is suited to underwater combat. So you get more stuff like Gauss weapons that instead of lasers, which is a little bit annoying because they changed up a few things there, but anyway. So the aesthetic is much different. There's many different alien types that were not in the original XCOM. In fact, the ones you saw in the original just aren't there anymore. They've all changed. Their functionality is pretty much the same, though. It's mostly kind of sprite changes that they did instead of actual fundamental changes. So that's something that's a little bit interesting, but at the same time, it's not that big of a difference. But really, it's just the aesthetic has changed. The graphics quality is almost exactly the same as the original, so you're not going to find this thing looks really better or worse. It's just personal preference. As far as the sound design goes, it's pretty much the same idea. They did change up a few of the sound effects here and there, mostly to fit the new equipment, but other than that, they really didn't change all that much. So it's pretty much the same presentation-wise except for the graphics, but the rest of the game is slight alterations rather than big leaps. Now, the story is set about 40 years after the events of the original XCOM, where humans won the first alien war. And there was peace for a while, but now aliens have started to appear from the seas, and they're causing all sorts of havoc. So, of course, XCOM is called into service once again to wipe out this particular alien threat, which takes place underwater. So now everything is set to accommodate this underwater theme. But it's pretty much exactly the same gameplay as the original game. You still have the geoscape and battlescape sequences where on the geoscape you're paying attention to where alien subs are going instead of UFOs. It's now alien subs are going around and you have to go and attack those and bring them down. Occasionally you'll send out guys to go on various missions. You're still doing research projects, you're still managing your base structures, which are all pretty much exactly the same as they were in the original, just made to accommodate this underwater theme. So the core gameplay is all still there. It's exactly what you'd expect from the original XCOM, just with some very, very slight alterations here and there to accommodate the new theme, and to just balance out things a little bit more towards the brutal difficulty side of things. Yeah, this game is much, much more difficult than the original. And part of that was because they improved the alien AI. In particular, they like to throw grenades at you now, and they do it a lot. And those grenades will always, always, always wipe out about half of your team if you're lucky. Because they like to throw them in such a way where it'll wipe out half your team in a single turn even if you got them spaced out pretty well. So that gets extremely annoying. In addition, it gets extremely annoying when aliens are picking you off from extremely long range with their exceptionally powerful weaponry, and you're defenseless because you have no idea where they are. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're playing this thing. It is much more difficult than the original. Expect it to be harder. Be much more careful. But if you like the original, you will definitely like this one. The thing is, I can't recommend it to newcomers of the series because it's harder. If you've played the original, you have a good base of how to play this particular game, but you'll find that this one is much more challenging than the original. You might like it, you might not, but you'll still get it. But this one, if you just jump into it, you'll probably find it way too hard and just be like, no, cannot do. And as a result, I can only recommend it to fans of the original XCOM, because of the fact that it's pretty much the same game, only with some slight alterations, with some improvements to difficulty if you found the original game to be not hard enough, which I don't know why you would think that way, but anyway. In general, it's actually a slightly better game than the original, but only because it's more refined. It just feels like they put effort into polishing it a little bit more than the original. That said, the original's still, personally, a better game. I much prefer the original to this one, even though I know it's technically a better game. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, if you can pick them up both, then go for it, and make sure you play through the first game before you play through the sequel. But if you liked XCOM, you'll like this. I'll have a link in the video description box where you can pick it up. Thanks for watching.